Let's get right into it. Number 5, the Scythian spirit cleansing rituals. Picture this. You're living around 500 BC, and your tribal leader just died. Instead of just mourning and moving on, your entire community is about to participate in one of history's most intense purification ceremonies. The Scythians were these fierce nomadic warriors who roamed the steppes of Central Asia, and they had developed something that would blow your mind. After burying their dead, they would construct small tent-like structures using wooden poles and thick wool mats. Inside these makeshift saunas, they'd build a fire and heat stones until they were glowing red hot. Then came the wild part. They would throw cannabis seeds onto these burning stones and crawl inside these enclosed spaces to inhale the vapors. The Greek historian Herodotus witnessed this ritual firsthand and wrote that the Scythians would howl with joy from the intoxicating effects. But this wasn't some ancient party. They believed these cannabis vapors would cleanse their souls and minds, purifying them after the contamination of death. Archaeological digs have actually found the exact wooden tent frames Herodotus described, along with copper incense burners and bags of fossilized cannabis seeds. These weren't just getting high for fun. The Scythians viewed this as essential spiritual hygiene, a way to communicate with the spirit world and ensure their deceased leaders could transition properly to the afterlife. If you're fascinated by these ancient mysteries, make sure to subscribe because we're just getting started with these mind-blowing tribal practices. Number 4, the Mazitech mushroom ceremonies of Mexico. Deep in the mountains of Oaxaca, the Mazitech people have been conducting sacred mushroom rituals for over 1,000 years. These aren't your typical gatherings. The ceremonies, called veladas, happen exclusively at night in complete darkness, guided by shamans known as Jyota Chichne. The mushrooms they use aren't just seen as plants or drugs. The Mazatec call them Endi Jijtho, which translates to the little ones that sprout, and they're treated as conscious spiritual beings capable of communication. During these ceremonies, participants don't just consume the mushrooms and wait for effects. The entire ritual is a complex spiritual journey where the shaman chants in a special poetic language called the language of the saints. These aren't random words or songs. Every chant is carefully crafted to guide both the participants and the spiritual forces they believe are present. The shaman acts as a spiritual negotiator, invoking ancestors and communicating with what they call the Lord of the Hills, and guardians of caves, rivers, and springs. They believe the mushrooms allow them to diagnose illnesses, retrieve lost souls, and determine whether someone will heal from their ailments. Sometimes the shaman has to negotiate with these spiritual guardians, offering candles, food, or even animals as payment for healing. This isn't just about altered consciousness. For the Mazitech, these ceremonies are their primary healthcare system, their connection to ancestral wisdom, and their method of maintaining spiritual balance in their community. Comment your location and let me know if any ancient practices like this still exist in your area. Number 3, the opium goddess rituals of ancient Crete. Around 1300 BC on the island of Crete, archaeologists discovered something that completely changed our understanding of ancient drug use. They found a terracotta figure that's become known as the poppy goddess. This isn't just any old statue. The figure shows a bare-breasted woman wearing a headdress decorated with 3 poppy capsules. And here's the incredible detail. Each capsule has vertical notches carved into it. These notches show that ancient Cretans knew exactly how to extract opium from poppy plants. But this goddess wasn't found in someone's house or marketplace. She was discovered in a closed shrine room, suggesting opium use was deeply tied to religious worship. The Minoans of Crete had developed sophisticated rituals around opium that connected them to their deities. They didn't view opium as a recreational substance or even just medicine. For them, it was a sacred tool that allowed communication with the divine realm. The goddess figure suggests that opium rituals may have been led by priestesses who guided worshippers through spiritual experiences. These weren't casual drug users. The Minoans had created an entire religious framework around opium that treated it as a bridge between the human and divine worlds. The precision of the carved notches on the goddess's headdress shows they had perfected the art of opium extraction, turning it into a sacred science that combined pharmacology with spirituality. Number 2, Saharan desert mushroom ceremonies. In the heart of the Sahara Desert, some of the oldest evidence of psychedelic drug use has been discovered painted on cave walls. These aren't just random drawings. Dating back anywhere from 9,000 to 7,000 BC, these ancient murals show human figures holding what appear to be psilocybin mushrooms. The paintings depict people in various stages of what looks like spiritual transformation, with some figures appearing to float or merge with animal spirits. What makes these discoveries so remarkable is their age. These paintings predate Stonehenge by thousands of years, making them among the earliest evidence of organized spiritual drug use in human history. The desert tribes who created these murals weren't just documenting their experiences, they were creating a visual guide for future generations, showing exactly how these mushroom ceremonies should be conducted. The paintings show clear rituals with multiple participants, suggesting these weren't individual experiences but community-wide spiritual events. Some figures in the murals appear to be transforming into different animals or sprouting additional limbs, indicating the tribes believed these mushrooms allowed them to shapeshift or communicate with animal spirits. The fact that these paintings have survived thousands of years in one of the world's harshest environments suggests the desert people considered them incredibly important. They weren't just recording a fun night out. These murals represent some of humanity's earliest attempts to document and preserve sacred knowledge about consciousness-altering substances. Before we get to our final incredible example, make sure to share this video with someone who would find these ancient mysteries as fascinating as you do. Number 1. The Vedic cannabis traditions of ancient India. The roots of spiritual cannabis use stretch back over 4,000 years to the Vedic period in ancient India, where the plant held a position so sacred it was considered a gift from the gods themselves. In the ancient Hindu texts called the Vedas, cannabis wasn't just some plant people stumbled upon. It was bhang, a sacred substance that connected mortals directly to Lord Shiva, the destroyer and transformer of the universe. These weren't casual users experimenting with different plants. The Vedic priests had developed elaborate ceremonies where cannabis was mixed with milk, spices, and honey to create a divine drink that would open the doors of perception. The ancient Sanskrit texts describe cannabis as one of the 5 sacred plants, calling it a source of happiness, a joy giver, and a liberator that brings freedom from distress. But here's what makes this different from every other ancient drug tradition we've talked about. The Vedic people believed cannabis could literally allow them to see through the illusion of reality itself. They called our everyday world Maya, a kind of cosmic trick that hides the true nature of existence. Cannabis was their key to seeing past this illusion and experiencing what they called Brahman, the ultimate reality behind everything. During these rituals, participants wouldn't just consume bhang and wait for effects. The ceremonies involved complex chanting, meditation, and yoga practices designed to guide the cannabis experience towards spiritual enlightenment. The priests believed that under the influence of this sacred plant, a person could transcend their individual ego and merge with the universal consciousness. Some practitioners reported experiencing what they described as cosmic unity, where the boundaries between self and universe completely dissolved. What's incredible is how systematic their approach was. The Vedic texts contain detailed instructions on how to prepare cannabis, when to consume it, what mindset to maintain, and how to integrate the experience afterward. They had turned spiritual drug use into a precise science of consciousness exploration. These ancient Indians weren't just getting intoxicated, they were using cannabis as a tool for understanding the deepest mysteries of existence, and their techniques influenced spiritual practices that continue to this day. These ancient tribes understood something we're only beginning to rediscover. They knew that certain plants could serve as bridges between the ordinary world and realms of consciousness we can barely imagine. From the Cythian purification tents to the Vedic cosmic ceremonies, these weren't primitive people stumbling around with random substances. They were sophisticated spiritual explorers who had developed complex systems for navigating altered states of consciousness in search of healing, wisdom, and connection to the divine. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.